And a good Thursday evening, everybody. Christopher McAdonald. Good to see everybody on this Thursday night, the 8th day of May, 2025. And we are grateful to have you tonight on a rather crazy day in the news. That's all I got to say. That is an understatement. I don't even know where we begin tonight. We were going to have John Muazzam from Pakistan on tonight. I couldn't get a hold of John. I was looking for him. He's not up. It's late. I think it's in the morning, early morning over there in Pakistan. And but we're going to get John on first of the week. We're going to schedule him to give us a little update on the situation. We were trying to get a few folks to come in and chime in tonight. We're going to get you to chime in on the Big news out of the Vatican. We have us a new pope. I've got some thoughts on that tonight. Some of those thoughts are not going to probably coincide with some of yours, and that's all right. I want to remind you folks, this is an opinion show. We've been doing this 7.5 years, and we get to espouse our opinion here every night. And these opinions are ours, and if we could not take the heat of disagreement, we wouldn't still be here. And, people are entitled to believe what they want to believe. I used to not handle it as well as I do now. I've learned to take things in stride. I guess when you're at something long enough, you learn the ins and outs of what's out there and what's not. And I just laugh. I'm actually laughing at some of the stuff I'm seeing this afternoon and tonight relating to this Pope. Yes, he is the first American. Robert Prevost. We had a radio show this afternoon, and we discussed it for an hour, and I will probably share a few of the thoughts I shared today there, which we'll talk about more tomorrow. KStarTalkRadio.com. We're going to have Angeline Marine with us, I think, tomorrow on the phone. She's going to chime in on a little bit and give her opinion about that. It's going to be a story in the news for the next few days. These things tend to explode on the scene. People get really excited or unexcited about it. I'm not going to spend all show tonight talking about it. We'll let you talk about it some at the end. And I think the bigger news tonight is Pam Bondi getting recorded by James O'Keefe, basically saying they have videos of Epstein and child victims, but yet we've had no arrest other than Ghislaine Maxwell and some of these victims that evidently the Justice Department knows about. And it's just, look, I've given Pam Bondi the benefit of the doubt, and I told you this back in February and March that, I'm going to give this whole administration till July, and Trump is already weeding out some folks that he needs to weed out. And I think more weeding out's coming. If Pam can't do the job, he needs to get her in Attorney General. But these leaks to the public and the press have got to stop. It just makes the administration look bad. It makes Pam Bondi look bad. It makes them look like that they're running their mouth. What she said in that private conversation should have never been heard by private ears. Now, she said it in a public statement, which, I guess it must not have been that classified. But my question, if it's not classified, why aren't we getting the meat of it? We'll talk about that a little bit tonight. Probably talk about that more next week on the radio show. Judge Janine Pirro, I can't pronounce her name. Good lady, solid lady. She has been named the acting U.S. Attorney General in D.C., and that is because Tom Tillis basically stabbed Ed Martin in the back. That was President Trump's nominee. Tillis stonewalled, and Trump said today he just don't have the time to fight this, so he withdrew Ed Martin's nomination. And he named Judge Janine interim, and that title could probably go, not be interim. It could be permanent here at some point. But he did that because if he would not have done it by May 20th, this Judge Boras that has caused Trump so much problems, would have named his successor himself. And, that was not going to happen. And Trump wasn't going to let that happen. So, I hope Tillis is proud of himself. He's pretty much destroyed his political career over this, stonewalling and trying to grandstand. So you folks in North Carolina, you need to take out the trash. And I'll just let that be your call to primary Mr. Tillis. There's rumors that Laura Trump may actually do just that. I think they've got a residence in North Carolina. Perhaps. I'm not sure about that. But I do know that there is a growing call for her to go against him in the primary next November in 26. Bye-bye, Tom. I hope you've enjoyed your 5 minutes of fame today, trying to act like a jackanapes and a rhino that you are. And I hope it's worth it. I hope it's worth it. I hope you've enjoyed Washington. And there's rumblings that he's got the same kind of problems that Letitia James has got tonight. The Attorney General from New York is under official FBI criminal investigation. So what's about to come around, what went around with Trump, she's about to have the boomerang hit her right in the face, and she is probably going to wind up being in prison for the exact same crime and the false claim that she made against Trump and won a $300 million judgment against him civilly. And ain't karma a bee? Ain't karma a bee? That's all I got to say. I won't fill in the blank. But as the late Doc Holliday would say, isn't that a peach? Isn't that a peach? And as we Southerners would say, couldn't happen to a nicer man. And I'm not talking about Trump. I'll just leave it at that. I'm just in one of those moods tonight. Now, let me get to the Pope. Let me get this out of the way and get everybody mad off the start, and then I'll start playing the videos and lighten you up later. I have been watching the Twitter handle, the Pope today, and I've got some pictures of him here that we will show you. We're going to talk about other things. We're going to talk about the judge and other things. But this is Pope Leo the 14th right there. That's him this morning. This news came down. I was at lunch today. My lovely wife, we were sitting there, and I saw something go off on my phone, and I looked down, and this Pope, Robert Francis Prevost of Chicago, was chosen by the College of Cardinals. I'm reading the article off of Breitbart. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll just put the article up because it's got actually the same exact picture. I got to tell you something funny. James R., I don't know if James R. is listening tonight, but I think his wife, she said that Pope looks like Chris McDonald, and she spells my name M-A-C sometimes. So I told her, I said, that is absolutely fake news. I'm at least 3.5 foot taller than he is. My hair is grayer, well, somewhat, but I don't wear glasses, not like that. And I've got blue eyes and he don't. But we are not related. I just want to get that fake news out of the way. There's no family kin. But I want to, I know she was doing it in jest. But anyway, this is the man that the Vatican has chosen. I do want to come back over and say something. We're not taking a victory lap about this. I predicted it for a week and a half, 2 weeks. In fact, I think we did the first show 2 weeks ago when the Pope, the last Pope died. And I think we did a story, and we had all these candidates that were basically on a news article, and the front runners and the ones that under conventional wisdom that the Catholic Church was looking at to replace Francis. And the most conservative of the six was a Cardinal Sarah. And he, even as late as this morning, there was an article out by Life News that he was emerging after the first vote yesterday as the leading vote getter. So everybody was looking at these other six candidates. They were looking at Sarah. They were looking here, looking there. They were not looking to America. They were not looking at this guy right here. And I told the audience, and I had a gut feeling that there was somebody lurking in the background that they probably had in mind, and they probably were talking to. And I've got some opinions about why it was hidden from the public. And again, those will be my opinions. But this cardinal is an American-born Pope, first time ever that the Pope will be an American. And that is very, it's prophetic in many ways. And if you're our Bible students, please be with us in the morning. It's going to be one of the best Bible studies you have ever had, because we're going to talk about the prophetic ramifications of what took place today. And you won't want to miss this. In the morning, we'll may forego our quiz that we were going to take tomorrow for this. But I want to just go ahead and read this article. We warned you 2 weeks ago that this was going to happen. I didn't see this coming. I didn't see it being an American Pope. But I had this gut feeling that they were trying to hide somebody. And I'll just go ahead and get this out. I believe one of the reasons we didn't know this name, and his name was not brought up, I just saw one article and all the internet, one, that mentioned his name as a possible candidate, and that was just 2 days ago. So they kept everything quiet up till about 2 days ago, and then threw his name out there. Just one publication did. Nobody was talking about Robert Prevost until before today. I believe that this man has a past. His voting, his social makeup, his moral makeup. He's considered a moderate by Catholic standards. Most people believe he's going to be very similar to Francis in social issues. He may be a little different on traditional Catholic values. But you've got basically Pope Francis II is what you've got right here. And he is a rabid climate change promoter. He is a rabid open borders promoter. Does not like Trump. Does not like J.D. Vance. He has, even as early as last week or 2 weeks ago, when El Salvador's Ukele was here, basically slamming our press down, trying to get this gangbanger back into the country, and Ukele was beating him down and saying he's not coming back, and Trump was telling him he's not coming back. This Pope was retweeting, and at the time he was a cardinal, but he was retweeting anti-Trump slogans and anti-Trump statements and anti-Trump things about immigration and claiming we needed to have compassion on Garcia. When George Floyd and his fentanyl-infested self got killed by police trying to do something he shouldn't have done, but he got killed. And then you had little Christians. I couldn't believe I was hearing Christians believe the media's press about what happened to George Floyd, that basically caused Antifa and Black Lives Matter to go up in smoke, literally, pardon the pun, the same kind of smoke that went up today in the Vatican. Well, this Pope was all about George Floyd. He thought that George Floyd should have had compassion and all that. Never mentioned one time his criminal background, never mentioned his criminal actions that led to what happened to him. I will announce we were going to do McJustice tomorrow night. I may hold that off for a week. We are going to do it this month. We're going to try to do McJustice one time a month. And I'm collecting a series of videos right now of just criminal acts that are being caught on camera in our country. That's sort of going to be our theme. And folks, we've got a lawless nation. I'm telling you, we have got a lawless nation right now. Trump is doing his best to bring law and order back, but it's not going to be easy. And the police right now are under the most greatest arrest I've ever seen them under. And it's a sad state of affairs out there tonight. But you got a Pope here that he's not going to do America any favors. And the other part of this that is just blowing me away, and I'll get to that in a minute, because I think I found some of these tweets. I don't have them posted. I may copy them. We may look at that tomorrow night if we're on. Not sure where we're going to be on tomorrow night, but if we are on, we may look at a few of these X accounts that are exclaiming this is the greatest thing in heaven, that this is the most wonderful thing that could ever have happened. And I'm just going to go ahead and be blunt and up front with you tonight, folks. Chris does not share in that enthusiasm. Of course, Chris ain't Catholic, so my feeling is pretty much it wouldn't have mattered if Sarah or any of them would have got elected. It's the same system, still an apostate system. And there ain't nothing going to change about the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is still going to be the Catholic Church. There ain't going to be a thing it believes that I believe. It ain't going to be anything that it pushes that I believe. There's nothing that it pushes that is true when it relates to the gospel. There's nothing that it pushes that I believe that relates to true Christianity. It's not Christianity. And having an American in office, all that to me is a Trojan horse. And I'll explain why in just a second. But let me get back to my article. But I'm going to tell you this. This is not a good day. And all these Americans that are out there thinking, this is just great. This is wonderful. We got an American Pope. Well, I know that the honeymoon on this will last maybe a few days. But you wait till his true colors come out, which they will. And they're already out. His past. I say it again. They kept his identity quiet. Because if his actual feelings would have probably been put out there in the press, and put out there for the world, and put out there for American Catholics to see what kind of man this was, I bet they probably wouldn't be rejoicing tonight. Because, we went on the air at 2 o'clock, and this was just an hour old, and I was scrambling to get stuff on him. And, there's not much but a few tweets that he forgot to delete probably. But that's how this is handled, and that's the Catholic Church. Everything is done in secret. Everything is done behind closed doors, and this is how they operate. They've always operated this way, especially when it comes to selecting their pope. But let me read this article to you. Let me introduce you to this new American pope that's running the Vatican now. He becomes the first American pope, chooses the name Leo the 14th. We did a story today about the significance of that name. Prevost of Chicago was chosen, first American pope in the church's 2,000-year history. By the way, that article at Breitbart, that 2,000-year history, Catholic Church is not 2,000 years old. You see, that's the conventional wisdom out there, that the Catholic Church is the true church. It is not. There's conventional wisdom is that Peter, the Apostle Peter, was the first pope. He was not. No, the Catholic Church did not begin 2,000 years ago. And that means universal church. The true church did, but the true church and the universal church are two different things tonight. The true church and the Catholic Church are two different things. And the de facto leader of the true church is not Robert Prevost. And the de facto leader of the body of Christ is not Leo the 14th. And the de facto leader of the world body of believers is not Robert Prevost. It's Jesus Christ. The Catholic Church came on this scene about 500 AD in fullness. You can read that in the book of Thyatira. That was really the church. When Jesus was addressing Thyatira, he was addressing this church. He was addressing the time frame in which that hierarchy, and really it goes back to the time of the Nicolaitans. They were a group of the New Covenant. It was the first century church that had went in, and we've been talking about this on Sunday night about the authority. We're going to start talking about it on Sunday night about the authority of the apostles, the prophets, the teachers. By the way, we're coming to Long Island. We're going to try to come to Tulsa this month, but this is going to be a big, big theme. With it being Pentecost season with the Holy Spirit, we're going to be talking about these ministry gifts. And but that was how God set up his government in his church. He did not set the church's government to be a laity and a hierarchy over common people that told people what to think and how to think and what was being said and taking the scriptures out of their hands. This pope he's all in. And Sarah, look, I believe, of course, the Catholics were not going to ask me my opinion. They probably don't care about my opinion tonight, and that's okay. But these opinions are mine. But if they were going to go another direction, if there was any hope that they would change their dogma and change their direction, Sarah was the man that they could have put in. He was very conservative. He was very pro-life. I saw Charlie Kirk out tonight, basically praising this pope as being pro-life. There's nothing that he has said. There's one or two statements isolated over the last maybe 10 years that he said that is pro-life. But, you know, it's sort of hard to believe that a pope that condones same-sex marriages like he does, just like his predecessor did, would all of a sudden believe in the sanctity of life, because can I just give you a little oxymoron? Same-sex marriages don't produce life. Ha, 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 ha. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, I believe in the union of a man and a woman and a woman that don't produce life, and then go out there and act like you're concerned about life in the womb, because, see, there is no life in the womb when you have a same-sex marriage. It's just a South Georgia thing. We South Georgia boys, we just common sense folks. As I say, I'm just a South Georgia boy. I just look at this from common sense. So all this rhetoric and all this narrative and all this fluff that's out there today, this propaganda, is nothing but a Trojan horse of evil. And I just go ahead and call it like it is. It's a Trojan horse, folks, that has got the American Catholics all excited about. They've got one of their own. And you see, this is the Trojan horse part. Most American Catholics I've talked to, both present and former Catholics, could not stand Pope Francis. They could not stand him. Most American Catholics, in this country at least, are very conservative, fairly conservative. Most of them are normal people. And again, this is not, I might as well go ahead and say this too tonight, Catholics, the people Catholics, I am not taking shots at you. I'm not even taking shots at your church. I'm just expressing my opinion of how I feel today about the election of this American Pope. So please understand that tonight. This is not personal. It's not personal at all. But most American Catholics that I've talked to, folks, are very conservative people. They respect life and they respect the sanctity of marriage. They respect the fact there's two genders. They respect these things. They don't believe our country should be overrun by illegals. They don't believe that climate change is the great big monster of the universe. This man's a big climate change guy. But Francis, he embraced all of that. He embraced all of that. And they couldn't stand it. And then I watch him today just go crazy, thinking that this is the greatest. I saw Charlie Kirk, of all people, out there praising this man as being great. Now, I know President Trump had some glowing things to say about him, and he made a big deal about him being American. That was being Trump. That was just being diplomatic, and I understand that. But I'm talking, folks, this. Look, if you didn't like Francis, and many of them told me they didn't like him because they couldn't connect with him. He was foreign. He was from Latin America, and he seemed so far off. He seemed aloof. He was, just not easily to connect with, but they couldn't stand his policies. Well, let me give you the Trojan horse in this. They like this one because he's American. But let me tell you about the Trojan horse, folks. He's got the same policy. He's got the same policy. He's just like him. He's just like Francis. There may be a few minor things that he don't see eye to eye on, but I will tell you, when you start looking at the history of where he's been in the Catholic Church, the one person that has seen his rise and been responsible for his rise up the ladder in the Catholic Church is none other than the late Pope Francis. And it's almost like Francis handpicked this man to be his successor. Now, I don't have no concrete proof of that. I didn't say I do, but I'm just saying this is just a gut. But just looking at this from the outside in, it seems from what I've seen today and reading and thinking on this, that this was probably Francis's choice. But it's amazing to me that the Catholic propaganda machine over there, the Vatican, I should say, the Vatican propaganda machine, I never saw one report except one article a couple of days ago, and his name was not even mentioned as really a serious candidate. It was just mentioned as a possibility. But let me digress here because I don't want to spend all show on this. We'll get your thoughts on this, but let me read this article to you. Cardinal Francis Provost of Chicago became the Pope's first American Pope in the Church's whatever your history. The Chicago native also chose the papal name Leo XIV. White smoke appeared around 6:08 p.m. Rome time, following by the chiming of the Vatican bells, which confirmed for the faithful, they call him, as a new successor to the see of St. Peter. The apostle was indeed chosen. That is such a crock of crap. But there's the Villanova University. Today we joyously celebrate the election of His Holiness. Oh, don't get me started. Don't get me started. And while I'm at it, let me say this about Sarah. Even if Pope Cardinal Sarah would have been nominated, folks, and chosen, it would have still been the Catholic Church. Sarah would not have been, there would have been no course change in the Catholic dogma. I will tell you what Sarah would have done. When you say I'm a conservative in the Catholic realm, what that means is that he's traditional. While he would have been more socially conservative, he was going to bring the Catholic Church back in many ways to its traditional teachings of the Eucharist, the infallibility of the Pope, the more traditional teachings. That was who Sarah was. I'm not saying he's a bad man. Socially, he would have been more conservative than this man, but he would have been probably more ingrained for dogma. He would not believed in women being ordained in the ministry, which me and him would agree on that, as far as leaders go. But I wouldn't be sitting there thinking that because Sarah didn't get elected that this Pope is the lesser of evils. Let me tell you something. Sarah wouldn't have been much better. I think if there was any hope the church would have went a different direction with their social views, he would have been better. But I'm going to tell you something. The Catholic Church would have still been the Catholic Church. And that's sort of what I'm trying to get at tonight, folks. You're not seeing a shift either way. What you're seeing, they've put an American face now on this. And I'll explain why that's important in a minute. Let me finish reading this article. There he is, and he is not the holiness. I hate when they call him that. But anyway, schools with a national championship and a pope. And there's Villanova, has representation. Evidently, he graduated from Villanova. Look at that. Unbelievable how that they do this. And then there's another thing. Villanova is about to be insufferable. They've got the Pope's banner there. This is Bishop Robert Barron. He says, I know him as a man of great intelligence, experience, and prayerfulness. I hope his election will have a vivifying effect on, I can't remember what else that said there. I don't really care at this point. But here is Josh Friedman. Obviously, the biggest question surrounding Chicago native is, will he root for the Cubs or the White Sox? And there's his brother there. And you can see all the joyous remarks about the Pope. This is what he said today. He said, peace be with all of you, dearest brothers and sisters. This is the first greeting of the risen Christ, the good shepherd who gave his life for God's flock. I, too, would like this greeting of peace to enter your hearts, to reach your families and all people, wherever they are, all of the people all over the earth. Peace be with you. This is the peace of the risen Christ, an unarmed peace and a disarming peace. Wow, mentions peace a lot, don't he? Humble and preserving, it comes from God, God who loves us all unconditionally. We still have in our ears that weak but always courageous voice of Pope Francis. He praised Pope Francis today as he blessed Rome. The Pope who blessed Rome gave his blessing to the world, to the entire world, that Easter morning. Now allow me to follow up on that same blessing. God loves us. God loves you all, and evil will not prevail. We are all in the hands of God. Therefore, without fear, united hand in hand with God, among ourselves, we move forward. We are disciples of Christ. Christ precedes us. The world needs his light. Humanity needs him as the bridge to allow it to be reached by God and by his love. Help us each other to build bridges. Now, let me say something about that statement. Sounds pretty spiritual, don't it? We need Christ to build bridges between us and God. There's a biblical truth to there. There's no mediator between God and man except Christ. If I had him in my presence right now and he asked me how I felt about what he just said, I would look at him and say, I tell you what, if Christ is the bridge between God and man, why do you worship Mary? He praised Mary in this speech, by the way. He called on her to protect him in his papacy today. So if you believe that Christ is the true mediator between God and man, why does the Catholic Church put people in front of priests to confess their sins to and give the priest the power to, quote unquote, absolve people of their sins if Christ is the bridge builder? You see, this language, folks, is a Trojan horse. It is a Trojan horse. It's always been a Trojan horse. And I'm not trying to sound terse tonight, but I see this push of this ecumenical, one faith, one world religion. And see, it's not even a one world religion at this point. You've got 1.3 billion people under the spell of this hierarchy, of this laity clergy, this laity priest, this priest people, this group that tells you what to do and what to believe. And we take the scriptures out of your hands and we'll tell you what God believes. And Leo the 14th will tell you that there's a bridge between you and God, and that's Christ. And then in the same breath tell you that we praise the Virgin Mary and we praise the priest. And he blesses Pope Francis. That was one of the most wicked, most evil, most unregenerate popes this world has ever seen in its history. And there's been some bad ones, folks. You know, there was an article today, and it was talking about Pius, Pope Pius, I think the 9th. And he was the one during the Holocaust. He would not condemn the slaughter of 6 million Jews. There was never a moment when Pope Pius of the Catholic Church ever condemned Hitler's actions in Germany. And there was rumors that he was getting ready to take that name, but I think he wisely chose Leo the 14th. I think Leo the cat or something like that. And folks, I'm not trying to be catty tonight. I'm being serious. I'm trying to add a little levity to this because if I don't, I'm going to get a little fired up, and I don't want to make this into a screaming match tonight. I don't. I really don't. But I'm telling you, you can't have it both ways. You can't say Christ is a bridge between God and man, and then you believe in a priesthood that you have to go to confess your sins. It don't work that way. It don't work that way. It don't work that way. And I'll amen myself. I'll amen myself. Let me get back to my newswire. Let me read this. This is his statement today. We're all in the hands of God. And he says, help us too, and help us each other to build bridges. You see, now here comes the inclusiveness of all. With dialogue, with meetings, uniting us all to be one people. Always in peace. He mentions peace a lot. Thank you, Pope Francis. I also want to thank all my brother cardinals who have chosen me to be Peter's successor. There he is saying that Peter is the first pope. He is not, folks. And to walk together with you as a united church, always seeking peace, justice, always seeking to work as men and women who are faithful to Jesus Christ without fear to proclaim the gospel, to be missionaries. And then he talks about his past. He says, I am a son of St. Augustine, an Augustinian, who said, with you I am a Christian, and for you I am a bishop. In this sense, we can all walk together towards that homeland that God has prepared for us. To the church at Rome, a special greeting. We must seek together how to be a missionary church. A church that builds bridges, dialogue, always open to receive like this square with its open arms all who need our charity, our presence, dialogue, and love. And if you will allow me a word, a greeting to all, and especially to my beloved diocese of Chiclayo in Peru. He was a missionary to Peru, where a faithful people accompanied their bishop, shared their faith, and gave so much to continue being a church that is faithful to Christ. To all of you brothers and sisters of Rome and Italy, of the whole world, we want to be a church of the synod, a church that walks, a church that always seeks peace, that always seeks charity, that always seeks to be close, especially to those who suffer. By the way, folks, that word suffering, that suffering right there, he is literally projecting the fact that the people that they believe are suffering. That was one of the things that he tweeted out in his anti-Trump post, that Garcia and all of these illegals were suffering under the Trump administration. Today, and I want you to look at this, folks. This is the catchphrase. This is the part of this that I wonder if these American Catholics grasp what he's believing in. He says, today is the day of the supplication of Our Lady of Pompeii. Our Mother Mary always wants to walk with us, to be close, to help us with her intercession and her love. Folks, let me say something about that tonight. Folks, you can get mad. You know, I know this is not going over well with some, and that's all right. I just sense it in my spirit. I sense it, and that's okay. Let me tell you something. You do realize in this paragraph, he does not mention the intercession of Christ once. Because listen to me now. This is what the Catholics believe, neighbor. It's what the Catholic Church believes. You see, Jesus to them, that they're talking about in their view is another Christ. It's not the Christ of the Bible. Because the Catholics don't believe in the Bible. They've got their own Bible. And the things they don't believe in as it relates to Christ, they just take out. And they add their own version. If a priest, you go before a priest and you tell them that the Word of God tells you this, and the priest will take that Bible from you, he says, well, let me tell you what it really means, and my word is more important than the authority of the Scriptures. There's priests out there that say that all the time. And before you Catholic defenders go at me and say, that McDonald, that's just flat wrong. Well, I tell you what, I've got so many ex-Catholics I could bring on this program in about 3 seconds. I might just do that over the next few weeks, get some ex-Catholics to come on and let's just chew the fat and see if I'm wrong about this. Because a lot of these ex-Catholics have come out of this, and I've not gotten an email yet from an ex-Catholic in 7.5 years on this program that told me I've said anything wrong. In fact, they've said, thank God that somebody's saying it. But you can't have it both ways, Pope. You can't have it both ways, Leo. You can't claim we're walking with Christ and then you start praising the Virgin Mary and saying that it's her intercession that we're concerned with. Mary's not interceding for you, Leo. She's not interceding for anybody. No, there ain't but one intercessor in heaven, friend. There ain't but one intercession. This is why it's a Trojan horse. For those of you that don't know what a Trojan horse is, the Trojan horse is what the Greeks, when Troy, the city of Troy was taken, and the enemies of the Romans basically brought built this big horse, and the Greeks thought it was a gift to the city. So they went out one day on the beach and they pulled that horse into the gates. Troy was such an impenetrable, you couldn't get over that city. You couldn't get over the walls of it. It was made so where no enemy could climb the walls. So the Romans come up with this brilliant idea that, well, I tell you what, we'll get in through the gates by making this horse. We'll make the Greeks think we're giving them a gift. And they did. And they pulled the horse right into the middle of the city, not knowing that inside that horse were Roman soldiers ready to basically slaughter every Greek they could find, every Trojan they could find. That's why it's called a Trojan horse. A Trojan horse. It's a Trojan horse tonight, folks. You ain't got to believe this. You can get upset with Mac. You can just say, well, he just hates Catholics. No, the very fact I'm telling you this is because I love Catholics. I love everybody. I care for everybody. It breaks my heart. And I listen to these statements. I read these statements, and billions believe this. Billions believe this tonight. They follow this. And I'm watching this craze go over America tonight like a blanket. I want you to read this on out with me. He said, we're going to walk with us to be close to help us with her intercession and her love. So I would pray together with you. Let us pray together for the new mission, for the whole church. And he says peace in the world again. Boy, he's big on peace, isn't he? And let us also ask Mary, our mother, for this special grace. And then he begins to recite Hail Mary, in Latin. And there he is right there. There he is. And a pro-abortion group is blasting him because he has made some pro-life statements. And this right here, I want to just show you, if there's any one thing that I can tell you, it's a Trojan horse, is when Barack Obama says, Michelle and I send our congratulations to a fellow Chicagoan, His Holiness, Pope Leo III, or 14th. This is a historic day for the United States, and we will pray for him as he begins the sacred work of leading the Catholic Church and setting an example for so many, regardless of faith, and so forth. And there he is. But the part of this article is not showing you is a lot of this, and we're going to post this on our thing. But tomorrow night, I'm going to show you the other side of that rah article of all these people praising him. Now, I got about 10 minutes. I'm already into an hour here, almost 40 minutes. Let me explain why this is so dangerous as an American. Why the American bent? Why pick an American pope? They had a lot of other candidates to pick. Why pick an American? You Bible students, be with me in the morning. We're going to talk about this, just me to you in the faith chat. I got a big audience tonight, so I'm going to take my shot while I got the audience. Unless they've all turned me off out there. I'm letting it all hang out tonight. This is the reason why him being American is so important in lieu of what the Catholic Church is trying to do. You see, Europe is gone. Europe has fallen to Islam. The Middle East has fallen to Islam. There are many Catholics in South America. The Catholic Church is trying to expand its influence. It's trying to expand its. It was somewhat dying, And there was not a lot of interest in the Catholic Church over here in America under Francis and even Ratzinger, the German Pope, because the Catholics were sort of going down a little bit, and they were sort of going down in number here in America. So they needed something to get American Catholics back on the rah-rah team in Rome, to start rooting for Rome again. And my humble opinion, you see, we still have the greatest number of true believers in all the world. Guess where? Right here in America. There's still a remnant of people, the largest number of people in the world that still believe in Jesus the right way, to believe in him the way Christ intends for us to believe in him, is right here in America. So what greater Trojan horse would it be to bring this apostate system right in our backyard? And people believe this is the new spiritual voice of the world. My Bible class has been hearing me tell them this for 2 weeks now. There's no greater visible figure, folks, of religion. If you think about what I'm about to tell you, you know this is true. Whenever the church is mentioned, I hear Ansley Earhart or Ansley Hannity, whatever her name is now, on Fox. Whenever she mentions the church, she's talking about the Pope. When Sean Hannity, her husband, talks about the church, he's talking about the Roman Church. He's talking about the Catholic Church. One of the biggest hosts that Fox had, he got fired over a sexual situation here about 5 or 6 years ago. He was a staunch Catholic. And he would talk about the church's teachings. He was talking about the Pope. He was talking about Rome. And if you don't think that the influence of this man is going to be greater than Francis, it will be. Because Francis, folks, his influence was waning because of such the wokeness that he presented. So what's more dangerous? Let me ask you this, and then we'll move on to something, because I want to talk about Judge Janine and play some video for you tonight and then take your thoughts. What's more dangerous? Somebody like Francis that is openly woke, openly pro-same-sex marriage, openly pro-borders, openly pro-abortion, openly have this mixture, because he was always a chameleon too. Some days he'd come out against abortion. Some days he'd say it was a woman's choice. Some days he would speak harshly about divorce. He would speak harshly about, families and speak about conservative values real hard. And the next day he'd be trashing the country, he'd be trashing America, trashing Trump. And of course, Trump's been in office for a few months now. Trashing our country for trashing Israel. This last pope was so anti-Semitic you couldn't see straight. And then in another vein, try to act like he was conservative, trying to play both ends against the middle. But he was open with what he believed. And when you got down to it, people couldn't stand him. Most Catholics could not stand Pope Francis. They told me that. What's more dangerous? Somebody like that that's open, or somebody that's now an American voice? And folks, I've seen tweets today, and it disturbs me very highly. We're trying to equate this. People are trying to equate this with the mega golden age, that everything is going American now. We got an American, we got American freedom again, American greatness again, American golden age again, America goodness. And my God, we got an American Pope. This is a sign that God is blessing the world. No, it's not. No, it's not. What's more dangerous? Somebody that tells you openly what they believe, or somebody that comes on the scene like a lamb? And my Bible students will understand this reference. He comes on the scene like a lamb, and he speaks like a dragon. And he speaks like a dragon. All I can say tonight is we're about to find out. We'll find out over time what he really believes. He can't hide it forever. And if there is something that's out there that we didn't know about, it will eventually come out. But all I can say tonight, and I got a whole lot more to say, but my time's out. This is why they kept him secret. This is why they kept him secret. And I know all Americans are giddy. He's a Cubs fan, and all Americans are giddy. He's pro-life. I watched the Life News claim he's pro-life. He's only made one statement about life in the womb that I know of, folks. Just one statement. That don't make him pro-life. And again, I want to say this. If he supports same-sex marriage, which there are indications he does, he's made statements that says he believes in that. He's okay with that. He's told the bishops, he said, if your area that you're over supports same-sex marriage, you have my permission to perform a same-sex marriage. Well, if you protect life, if you claim that you're pro-life, then you are basically condoning something that's not going to produce life. So you can't have it both ways. See, pro-life is more than just about killing babies. It's about producing life. Okay. That's your new pope. That's your new pope. That's your new pope. And anyway. Okay. Now, anyway, Jason Miller just sent me something. Cubs means see your BS. Miller, if you're out there tonight, I can always count on you, son. Good job. We got other stories to talk about tonight. I want to get to Judge Janine for a few minutes. The Epstein list we're gonna talk about the Epstein list tomorrow night. I'm debating whether to play this video. I don't want to get my channel whacked. But anyway, this is Judge Janine basically letting Jessica Tarlov have it about Donald Trump. And Judge Janine tonight was basically named the acting U.S. District Attorney for Washington, D.C., thanks to Tom Tillis, who basically sunk Ed Martin's nomination. Ed Martin is going to be in a greater position of power than he ever could have been in D.C. By the way, he's probably coming for you, Tom, because evidently Tom's got some mortgage fraud problems himself. Makes you wonder about these rhino Republicans. It really does while they do this stuff. But this is the new, I'm going to turn my mic on just a little bit here. This is Judge Janine today. She was letting it all hang out. That's why I think she's going to make a great U.S. District Attorney for D.C. And if Tillis and that bunch up there thinks that Martin was going to be tough and not leave anything unscathed. By the way, do you realize crime had been down 25% since Ed Martin had been in place up there just since the first of the year? 25% in D.C. That's awesome. But there's another sheriff in town that's coming. She's called Judge J. Roll tape.
I hate a country that is akin to a third world country. This is a banana republic. When you indict one guy running for president and the guy who's doing it is some old geezer who says, you know what? I don't know anything about it. The day, by the way, the day that we finally get under threat of contempt to the head of the FBI, we finally get a 1023 from a credible FBI source. Credible, $200,000 worth of credibility the FBI paid him, saying Joe took $5 million, Hunter took $5 million from Ukraine. And I'm not done yet. I'll tell you something else. This whole thing with Ukraine, why the heck is everybody going to Ukraine? Why do we put billions and billions and billions of dollars into Ukraine? What the heck is going on over there? Randy Weingarten going to check out education. And Joe Biden goes over there in January of 2018, and he says, if you don't get the prosecutor off that company where my son makes $80,000 a month, and if you don't get rid of him, I'm not going to give you the $1 billion that the United States promised you. Well, Joe, that's called pay to play. It's an organized criminal enterprise that we have the president and his family. They should be ashamed, and every American should be ashamed of what happened today.
That was when Trump got indicted for the document case. This is Judge Janine today. That was a few years ago. This is Judge Janine today. Jessica Tarloff. I think Fox has her on that 5 just for entertainment purposes only. Roll the tape.
Speak to us anymore. The Democrats are the party of hate. The Democrats are the party that said he's a Putin asset, he's a Russian puppet. The Democrats are the ones who signed affidavits and lied to a court so that they could spy on a president of the United States. The Democrats are the ones who said that we're destroying democracy. Let me tell you something about Donald Trump. Let me tell you something about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is one of the most generous people you'll ever meet. He does all kinds of things that people have no idea about. And by the way, if he were selfish, he'd take his money and tell all of us to go F ourselves based upon the way this country has treated him. This guy got shot.
About him
Don't tell me he's selfish.
Are absolute fools.
Let me tell you something. Donald Trump is the only one who moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He's the only one who got the Abraham Accord.
Why aren't Jews voting for him?
I'm not going to fight with you anymore, Jessica. But I know the man and the facts rely and anything you say.
Apparently, I have stirred up a little something, Jesse.
I would call it a hornet's nest.
Oh,
yeah,
I never heard that.
What does that make us?
I would agree with Jessica. The Jews are not foolish. I definitely
really
have
big of you.
so much respect for the Jews. Kamala Harris, you say, cares about people. Well, why didn't she call the Gold Star families when all of these people died? Why did she let fentanyl pour into this country and just wreak havoc? Why does she just let prices go up and do nothing about it, Jessica? Why does she let criminals go prey on elderly people in our cities? A person that cares about other people doesn't do it. You talk about the Haitian situation.
Yeah.
Border Patrol agents were trying to prevent illegal aliens from breaking into the country. She lied, said they were whipping them, and then imported and inserted 300,000 Haitians into this country where people don't even know how to speak Spanish anymore, have a translator to go to kindergarten. That's what's happening, Jessica.
That's what's happening.
Argue, please. Come on.
Yeah,
There'll be enough arguing tonight.
That's what's happening.
Bill Clinton fired. I am so tired of saying that.
Well,
nobody burnt any cars. Nobody protested. Nobody resisted when Bill Clinton did the same thing.
He didn't do the same thing.
He did the same thing. Oh, he worked with Congress? Oh, that's
doing
big
an actual evaluation.
That's big of him. And in the meantime, they should work with Congress when Congress has allowed this for the past 15 years. That's the problem. Well, we pay for it. And you know what? I'm sick and tired of this Jayapal and the resistance because the Democrats don't deal in reality. None of this thing is honest. None of it is credible. None of it is real. If you decide you want to close a Social Security office because there's no one going to it, it doesn't mean you're losing your Social Security check. Stop with the it may be this and it may be that. The bottom line is we have spent so much money that goes to other people that it doesn't go to the people it's intended to or should be going to the people it's intended to, and nobody seems to give a damn. And that's the problem. So Jayapal can go up there and say, you know, I'm going to teach resistance, and I'm going to do it in the, what she called the principles of Dr. King and the nonviolence. Hogwash, that's a lie, because all they do is violence. And Jayapal has not once said, don't burn a car, don't blow up a Tesla, don't blow up a dealership. They're all full of it. And it's all performative. And they talk about resistance, and she says, America hasn't had to deal with a dictator until now. Really? This is the first time? What about the first term? Did you forget that? And the media follows the narrative. The media is saying Elon Musk is terrible, which is why Doge is not held in such high esteem. That's why now you're seeing Elon Musk.
Before we go, does that ring give you superpowers, Judge?
Which one?
Which one? The one that looks like Planet.
And that's your new U.S. District Attorney. Here's Trump today. Ed Martin was a good man. And I'm going to say this to Tom Tillis. I'm going to say to you North Carolinians that listen to me tonight, folks, listen to me. Tom Tillis needs to be retired. This does not need to be forgotten. Ed Martin's going to have more power than he's ever thought. Tom Tillis may have regretted the day that he did what he did, but it was strictly because of his actions that Trump had to do this today. But that's going to be your new district attorney in the D.C. area. Couldn't have picked a more firebrand. She's got it right. Here is Trump today on Ed Martin.
Yeah, but he's a terrific person, and He wasn't getting the support from people that I thought. He's done a very good job. Crime is down 25% in D.C. During his period of time. I'm very disappointed in that, but I have so many different things that I'm doing now with the trade. I'm one person. I can only I can only lift that little phone so many times in a day. But we have somebody else that will be great. I just want to say Ed is unbelievable, and hopefully we can bring him into, whether it's DOJ or whatever, in some capacity, because really outstanding. To me, it was disappointing, I'll be honest. I have to be straight. I was disappointed. A lot of people were disappointed. But that's the way it works sometimes. That's the way it works. And he wasn't rejected, but we felt it would be hard. And we have somebody else that we'll be announcing over the next 2 days who's going to be great.
He didn't take 2 days to announce it. He announced it tonight. There's the announcement. He says, I'm pleased to announce that Judge Janine Pirero will be appointed interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. Janine was Assistant District Attorney for Westchester, New York. Went on to serve as a county judge, district attorney, where she was the first woman ever to be elected to those positions. During her time in office, she was a powerful crusader for victims of crime. Her establishment of the Domestic Violence Bureau in her prosecutor's office was the first in the nation. She excelled in all ways. In addition to her legal career, Janine previously hosted her own Fox News show, and then she's been the co-host for The Five, one of the highest rated shows on television. She's incredibly well qualified for this position, is considered one of the top district attorneys in the history of the state of New York. She is in a class by herself. Congratulations, Janine. And Judge, we tip the hat to you. Give them hell. Give them hell. And I can tell you this. Again, these rhinos, this one rhino is going to rue the day that he did this. It really is. Here is Will Cain today on... This was a hideous thing. I'm going to play this video here. There was a lady on Capitol Hill today, and I want you to listen to this, folks. This is our country for you. This is our country for you. She was testifying before Congress about men in women's sports, and this is her take about the trans situation in America. Roll the tape.
And as an expert on women's rights in sports and in society, I want to be clear here. Transgender women do not pose a threat to women's sports.
Oh, really?
Transgender women belong in sports. And I'm here because I care about all women and girls in sport. And I know that bullying trans kids and creating panic about the existence of trans people will not make us safer. It won't solve any of the problems that I named about inequity in sports. And the fixation on harming trans kids, it will not fix the problems of the American people.
Well, that wasn't the end of the show. You heard what she said. I hope you heard it. I hope you could hear it through the mic. She does not see the danger of trans athletes in women's sports. In other words, a man that has transitioned to a woman. I was reading a story tonight, and I think we shared it on our timeline on X. Baseball player, University of Minnesota softball player. He's a trans. He is dominating the stats in college softball in the region up there with Minnesota. He's a man pitching to girls. He's got the highest strikeout record ever. Of course he does. He's a man. Minnesota's going to get their butt sued. That's Tim Walsh's state, by the way. But I want you to listen to Will Cain today, because Will Cain sort of picked this theme up in his show, but he played Jasmine Crockett's response. I want you to listen to this idiosyncrasy stupidity that Jasmine Crockett had to add to this blank show today. Roll the tape.
Seems like a comedy bit that you might see out of Veep, but we didn't make this up. It's real. It's a congresswoman, a real one, asking a real witness, I guess, real questions.
I want to play a game. It's called Trump or Trans. You ready?
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to tell me whether or not it is Trump or trans people that are responsible. You understand? Cutting health care?
Trump.
Firing government workers who keep our country safe?
Trump.
Encouraging an environment of hate and divisiveness?
Trump.
Thank you so much.
Chock full of lies. She went on to say as well that Trump's caused inflation. False. Kidnapped and deported American citizens. False. Put us on the precipice of a recession. False. It's just classiness all around from Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, which at this point really should be no surprise.
I know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot mess, honey. We know how to use a chair. Whether we pulling it up or we doing something else with it. Somebody slap me and wake me the up because I'm ready to get on with it.
If you could speak directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
Off.
All of this obviously leads to the question of who voted for Jasmine Crockett.
Texans.
They should be embarrassed.
Texans. They did. They're not embarrassed. That's your representatives. Jasmine Crockett. The same Jasmine Crockett, if I can find the clip here, and I had it tonight. I know I downloaded this time around. I didn't have it before. But I want you to listen to her talk about illegal aliens, because she literally says that an illegal alien is not, how does she put it? It's not a crime to come into the country illegally. And I know I've got it because I downloaded it myself today. I know I did. I think this is it right here. This is her graduation speech, by the way. I'm going to play this, and then we'll find the other clip.
There are people that are going to tell you that there is not a table in which there is a seat for you, but I am here to remind you of Montgomery and those folding chairs. Let me tell you that we know how to use a chair, whether we pulling it up or we doing something else with it. Let me be the first one to tell you that I know that y'all are ready to put your boots on the ground.
Basically calling for violence against...
That's your cue.
That's your cue.
There we go.
That is your cue. That was her at a graduation ceremony telling you basically, folks, she don't care if they throw chairs. They're going to do whatever they can. I keep losing that clip. I've had that clip 3 times, and I misplaced it. I'm going to have to find it. But she was basically on a talk show, basically saying, I'll find it probably the second I sign off the network tonight, and I'll have it for tomorrow night, I guess. But she's basically here saying that it is... Oh, here it is right here. I found it. There is a God. Roll the tape.
It is not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. It's not a criminal. It's a crime. It's not a crime.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Yep. Texas, I hope you're proud. I hope you're proud. That's who's representing you right there. It's not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. Wow. Such intelligence. Such intelligence. And she was actually asked to speak at a graduation. I bet that school has got to be proud. Makes me wonder what kind of school she was asked to speak to. That's who's running your country, folks. At least somebody that's running your country. By the way, this is President Trump today. The FBI has opened a criminal file on Letitia James. Roll tape.
I can say unrelated to that, she's a disaster for New York. She's a horrible, horrible human being. And I think she's a total crook. There's no question about it. But that's just my opinion. Pam's going to have to do what she wants. She's a very bad person. She's a very, very bad person who campaigned solely on, I'm going to get Donald Trump over and over again. She's a sick person. But that's has nothing to do with what Pam does. Pam is going to do what's right. She always does. I've known her a long time.
We hope she does what's right. I would hope she would do what's right by this. By the way, some of you may have heard us on the radio play this clip. This was a a school board member last night up in Massachusetts telling the people of the school board, please don't be praying before the school board. We don't need God. This is our lawless, godless country right now. Roll the tape.
If you put prayer at the beginning of this meeting, I don't think that's a welcoming sign to the people who are in this room tonight. How much prayer do you need? How much God do you need?
You need
we
a
say
lot,
under
lady.
God. We say it.
You need a lot.
Why do we need to say more? This, to me, is very disturbing. If I tell you I'm offended, I'm offended. I just don't understand why you're comfortable excluding people. Not everyone who is in this room tonight is Christian. And guess what? If you do this, we're going to have legal challenges. And guess what? It goes all the way to the Supreme Court because it's in the Constitution. I don't know why you need prayer to take this job seriously. But don't say this is going to unify when I'm telling you it will not.
Wow.
Why do you need this?
I need prayer right now, so I will not say something that will get myself kicked off this network. So please pray for the host right now, because I really need it really bad to respond to that dumb foolery. Here is Mr. Weiner from California, by the way. Not that Weiner, the one's in jail. He's complaining. I'll let him do his explaining, what he's complaining about in California. Roll tape.
We know that the sex offender registry contains a massive array of crimes, including, having sex in a car or in a park. That gets you on the sex offender registry. We also know that LGBTQ people have been massively and disproportionately targeted and subjected to being slammed onto the sex offender registry. That's the whole history of the sex offender registry. So this aspect of the bill is incredibly overbroad and discriminatory.
What you just heard there, folks, was gay California Democrat Scott Weiner. He was in the news a few days ago, but he's complaining that there's a bill, SB 311 in California, that basically he's saying that the sex offense registries are disproportionately impacting LGBTQ people, and implies that having sex in a park in a car should not be sex offense. Now, what he's saying there is that, again, he's pushing for public things that are not supposed to be done in public. But see, the extension of that bill is that he's sort of insinuating that it don't matter whether you do it with a kid or whether you do it with an adult. They don't believe it's wrong. A couple of other quick things, and we've run out of time tonight. We've got so much more to talk about tomorrow night if we're on. But I've got enough material for 3 weeks here. This is my home state growing hero, Margie Taylor Greene, and about the Gulf of America brush up. These Dems, a bunch of hypocrites. I could say a lot more about that. Roll tape.
Speaker, I'm honored to be here today in front of the American people as we debate the merits of the Gulf of America Act. This would rename the body of water formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. This is such an important thing to do for the American people. The American people deserve pride in their country, and they deserve pride in the waters that we own, that we protect with our military and our Coast Guard, and all of the businesses that prosper along these waters. But Democrats today are outraged. They're outraged because they love the cartels more than any other people in the world, more than the American people. They spent the past 4 years funding and voting for policies that ripped our borders open and allowed our country to be invaded by millions and millions of people. Drugs and fentanyl that murdered over 300 Americans every single day. Human trafficking, child sex trafficking, terrorists, and millions of people that we have no idea where they are in the interior of this country. Democrats are outraged today because they are America last, and they hate anything that would give the American people pride. The Gulf of America is one of the most important things that we can do this Congress. This is an executive order written by the President of the United States, which, by the way, is president today because the American people rose up and voted against a Democrat Party that was completely America last. Section 1 of the executive order lays out the purpose and policy and directive stating, it is the national interest to promote the extraordinary heritage of our nation and ensure future generations of American citizens celebrate the legacy of our American heroes, the naming of our national treasures, including breathtaking natural wonders and historic works of art, should honor the contributions of visionary and patriotic Americans in our nation's rich past. Americans have watched Congress week in and week out rename post offices. Democrats vote for it all the time. Democrats aren't afraid to rename anything. They've been renaming military bases because they hate our history and hate our heritage. This is also the same Democrat Party that cheered when their ground troops, Antifa, and radical rioters went throughout American cities and tore down statues like Lincoln and Washington. The Democrat Party doesn't want to preserve America's rich history or promote pride in our country, our lands, our people, our businesses, and yes, our waters, the Gulf of America. The Democrat Party wants to remain the best business partner to the cartels that they've ever had. It's the cartels that have been enriched by tens of billions of dollars because of Democrat policies, and they'll continue to protect them and fight for them. Thank you, Mr.
Yep,
Speaker.
that's what she means. One quick clip. Chris Murphy today of Connecticut basically just made Margie Taylor Greene's point by the dumb questions he was asking Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security, about Kilmar Garcia. Roll tape.
Court decision requires the administration to facilitate Kilmar Abrego Garcia's release from El Salvador. Can you describe the steps that you have taken to facilitate this release? And specifically, can you answer as to whether you have reached out to your counterpart in El Salvador to facilitate Mr. Abrego Garcia's release?
Abrego Garcia is a citizen of El Salvador and should never have been in this country and will not be coming back to this country. There is no scenario where Abrego Garcia will be in the United States again. If he were to come back, we would immediately deport him again. Because he is a terrorist, he's a human smuggler, and he is a wife beater.
You've read the Supreme Court decision. Does the Supreme Court decision not require you to facilitate the return of Mr. Abrego Garcia?
No. The Trump administration is complying with all court orders and judges' orders.
Does the Supreme Court order require you to facilitate the return of Mr. Abrego Garcia?
Is a citizen of El Salvador. It is up to the president of the El Salvador to make the decision. If he is coming back. It's been a big topic of conversation between all of us, between the country. When the president visited the United States of America, it was discussed and talked about there. The president has been very clear on this issue, as the Secretary of State, and I have as well. Abrego Garcia is not a citizen of this country.
He's not a
dangerous individual who does not belong.
I will not ask another question, Madam Chair.
If we were back in this country, we would immediately.
But the discussion ends when the Supreme Court rules 9-0 that you have to facilitate his release.
Facilitate, don't mean bring him back, dumb blank. This is our Congress. It's our Congress. By the way, I'm sure that Murphy didn't want you to know this when he was grilling Noem. This was tonight, yesterday actually. The convicted human trafficker who owned the van that was driven by deported MS-13 gang member Kilmar Abrego Garcia has reportedly told DOJ officials that he paid Garcia to transport illegal aliens from Texas across the country. This is the Maryland man that Chris Murphy wants to facilitate his return. The wife beater, the trafficker. That's the Dems for you. By the way, one quick thing, because this has to do with that story. The judge, this is what I want to show you. We'll have to pick the rest of this stuff up tomorrow night. Honorable Judge J. Barron, has ruled that the wording of the Fifth Amendment that leftists have been screaming about does not apply to non-citizens. Because that's what Murphy and the Supreme Court supposedly are screaming about. The Constitution is clear, said the judge. The rights and privileges under this document are reserved for the citizens of the several states and their legal appointees. It is up to the Supreme Court to intervene now. Good luck on that. But at least it's on the record that this is about citizens, not about non-citizens. All right. We've been going an hour and 20. You got 10 minutes, folks. I've got so much to talk about. There's a breaking story that could have been that the Columbia protesters were aware of October the 7th before it happened. We're going to try to follow that story tomorrow. We'll have it on the radio tomorrow at 2. If you got a question tonight in the house, I'm going to come over to Facebook. Please keep your questions on topic, folks. And please, folks, I know that, I don't want to say what I'm about to say, but keep the questions about the show and not something else. Any questions you got, anything you want to say, have at it. You've got 10 minutes. Joan says, oh my goodness, who did we vote for to run our nation to protect the people? We voted for Trump, Joan. We voted for Trump. We voted for Trump, and they would let him do his job. He would do that. Dennis, you asked, what is the point of all these popes choosing a different name? It's just tradition. It's Catholic tradition. It's just, that's the way it's been done for years. The succession list, I've got a list. I pulled a list off the internet today. It goes way, way back, buddy. It goes back almost 1,500 years. It's always how it's been. I can't answer why, because I'm not Catholic. I might have to find a Catholic and ask about that, why they named their... we've got an article. I think we posted the article in our Telegram room of the significance of Leo the 14th, because there's been a few other Leos in the past. One Leo didn't even last a month. One Leo was named, it was, I think, 1865, 1848, somewhere, it was 1800s. He was named Pope April the 1st. He died April the 27th. He didn't even last 27 days. So I don't think this Pope Leo hopes that his legacy is like that one, that's for sure. But the very fact that they were considering Pius was the most anti-Semitic pope in the history of the Catholic Church. But anyway. Anyway, you got any questions, folks? Questions. I didn't know that, Zealous. She says nuns can also change their names when they become nuns. I didn't know that. Again, I'm not Catholic, so I wouldn't know that, but that's interesting. Any questions, any comments, folks? You got 5 minutes. You're down to 5. Any questions? Any questions? Good to have a great audience with us tonight. This is your turn. This is your turn. Carol Smith says, is the Pope trying to affect midterms by influencing Catholics? He has no say in U.S. policy. Well, Carol, when you say affect, buddy, look, who knows what his motives are? When you say, is he trying to do that? I don't know. That's a question I can't answer. Is it a possibility? Look, I just think this whole thing stinks. I do. I think it's a Trojan horse. I know I see a lot of people exclaiming the excitement about him being American. I think it's just the opposite. I think the influence this man is going to wield is going to be greater. He's going to have probably a bigger voice than Francis ever had. And if he's the same as Francis, all he's going to be doing is being Francis's megaphone from the grave. I mean, everything Francis tried to probably implement, this man's going to have more power behind him simply because he's an American. And I don't doubt that he is going to probably push. That's sort of what I've been trying to say tonight. His influence with the American Catholics is going to be greater. And whereas they may have rejected what Francis said to them because they just didn't like him, some of them didn't like him because of his personality. Some told me they didn't like him because he was Latin American. Some told me they didn't like his socially woke thing. And see, this is the thing I don't understand about Catholics. I've never understood it. And I saw somebody in there tonight say something about, well, I hate the worship of Mary. Well, if you're a Catholic, what are you doing in the Catholic Church? If you hate something, and I'm not saying that person was in the Catholic Church, but if you hate the fact they worship Mary, why are you staying in it? Why are you staying in it? I mean, if you hate that they believe the Eucharist heals you, if you hate the Pope, if you hate the liturgy and the clergy, why do you stay in such a system? And I ask the same thing to the Protestants. If your church is an apostate, if you got a church that you're a part of and it's not preaching the gospel and it's preaching false doctrine, why do you stay in it? I can't never get an answer for that. They go quiet on me. And then I hear one or two of them every now and again, well, we're trying to be a light. You're not going to be a light to the Catholic Church, neighbor. The church is not going to change. The church is not going to change. But neither here nor there. Carol, your question, I wouldn't doubt that he will try to exert some political influence here. I would not doubt that that's what he's probably going to do eventually. He ain't going to do it right now because it's honeymoon season right now. Everybody's enthused he's a Cubs fan and so forth. But anyway, I did not say, Susan, he's an anti-Semite. I don't know what he is. That's been one of the things that has not really been clear. I don't know about his stance on Israel. Again, he's been a mixed bag. Stephen, your question, does Trump have to obey the courts? Of course he does. But the issue is jurisdiction. He only has to obey the courts that have jurisdiction over the executive branch. A lot of these low-level pipsqueak judges are just immigration judges. They've got no say in what the administration does. And the Supreme Court is going to have to take this up. And I don't say that because I think the Supreme Court's going to do the right thing. I'm very concerned that John Roberts is going to spearhead a movement to stop a lot of what Trump's doing. I do. And then it's going to come down to a fight like we've never seen before between the judicial and the executive branch, and that is where the legislative branch is going to have to stand up. And if we have to depend on these Republicans, we can kiss our blanks goodbye because they ain't going to do nothing. They are not going to do nothing. And look, I said something the other day, and I'm going to say it again tonight, folks. If we thought for a second that this second term of Trump was going to be a golden age of peace and a golden age without problems, we're foolish because it's the powers that be, the source of power, the powers over this country that do not want to see American free are still here. They're still fighting. And this whole globalist elite, anti-God, anti-Christ, anti-faith spirit is just as real tonight as it ever has been. And someone sent a statement. They said, European progressives despise Vance. They get away, Cleo did, she said, they get away with mocking Trump, but Vance articulates faithful to one life, and they're going after him, which is the future. That's why the tweet that Prevost reposted about Vance, we'll show you tomorrow night. You see, they're scared of Trump, but they're more scared of Vance because Vance is the future and he's younger. And he met with Francis right before he died, and he was brave enough to go in there and tell the Pope exactly how he felt about the Pope's mass migration policies. The Pope didn't like it too much. Neither did Prevost. They mocked the meeting between Trump and Ukele from El Salvador. And as I said, folks, Europe's gone. Europe's gone. America's the last bastion of Christian hope. Still. To this hour, we're the last bastion. So if they can destroy the true faith here, the whole world's gone. And that's why we as Christians in America better get on our knees and pray like we've never prayed before against these spirits and against these forces. Against these forces. Anyway, and I'm not here to address Trump's personal life. Go take that somewhere else. Zella May says, I know a 30 or a 90-year-old Italian woman in New York City went to Mass almost daily and stopped going because of Francis' liberalism. Zella, that is a lot of people, and that's sort of what I'm saying. I mean, there was a lot of American Catholics that were not happy with his liberalism. But look, folks, I don't want to, I might as well just go ahead and lay the cards on the table tonight. his social conservative woke values, it's still, even if he was socially conservative, it don't change the leopard spots of the Catholic faith. And so I'm not saying that directly to you. I got an audience beyond this chat tonight. It don't matter whether he's conservative or not. And see, this is the punchline. This guy is now all of a sudden being promoted and pushed out there as a moderate and as a moderate conservative, simply because he's made a few statements about pro-life. What I read today, this man is not conservative. I mean, if what I'm reading is true. And I'll put it like this, his Twitter handle and his Twitter account has some pretty nasty stuff about Trump and Vance in America. And he's woke as can be. He's woke as can be. It's Trojan horse. It's Trojan horse. And I want Catholics to answer me that question tonight. Look, if you know this system is so corrupt and you know this system is so apostate, why are you still in it? You can hate the worship of Mary all you want to. Well, if you hate it, why are you still in it? Why are you still in it? It's about faith. It's about faith. True faith. Anyway, Salty says, I've been on fire tonight. Oh, thank you, friend. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you. I think that's a compliment, right? That is a compliment. I hope that's a compliment. That's all I got to say. Cleo says, let's see, Cleo says to signify a new beginning about the names, to honor a previous pope, and to define his direction. So far, a clue researched the pope he chose. So it's, again, tradition. Jan says, when I was young and in Catholic school, I could never understand why I had to confess to a priest and not Jesus himself. I didn't like kissing the ring of a bishop and calling him your excellency. I asked my parents to take me out of the Catholic school, and they did. They always told me there was only one God. And there is only one God, Jan, but the Catholics, look, if you listen to that speech, if you listen to what he said today closely, it was mixed. There was a few lines in there that I think Christians around the world will say, well, yeah, amen, Jesus is a bridge. But our definition of a bridge is not a bridge of social justice, that he bridges all the faiths into one. And that's what I took away from that. And then, look, the punchline is always in the details. And he let the punchline out at the end of what he believes. And when he started praising Mary and saying her intercession be with us, and we pray for her presence to go with us, well, that tells me everything I need to know what he believes. He don't believe that Jesus is the intercessor. And see, again, he's pro-life. Well, okay, he makes a few pro-life statements, but yet he supports same-sex marriage. That's an oxymoron. It's an oxymoron. There is one God, and there's one Christ. There's not multiple Christs, and I will tell you, there's only one mediator between God and Christ, and it ain't the Pope, and it ain't those priests, and it ain't those bishops, and it ain't those cardinals, and it ain't your pastors, and it ain't your evangelists, and it ain't your favorite prophets, and it's not any of these evangelists either. There ain't but one way to God, and that's Christ. Chris says, do you believe that Canada is cooked because of the new leader they voted in? Chris, I'm glad you brought Canada up tonight. I don't want to get into it on a long way because it's right at 10:30. I'm going to talk about Canada a little bit. Chris, I guess it remains to be seen. I'm not going to say they're cooked. There's some good people up there. But I am getting tired of hearing some of these extreme political people blame us for their fate of that election. It was not America's fault what happened. And I made a statement about the 52%. I'm not going to belabor and belittle the point. 69% of registered voters voted. But I need my glasses. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. But do I believe they're cooked? I don't know. I don't know if they are not. Anyway, let me see what Jenny says. Jenny says they are endorsing blatant idolatry. So forth. All righty. Hang on just a second. Did I misread that? The Pope's name, choosing a different name, is to signify a new beginning, to honor a previous Pope, and to define his direction. So far, a clue. I get you. Research the Pope. That's what they're suggesting. Dennis Cleo's suggesting research. There is an article, and again, we've got an article. I'll find it and I'll put it in our Telegram room because it was an interesting history of the names of the Pope, including Pius, Leo, John Paul was a name. Benedict, Ratzinger, the German Pope, used Benedict. This last one, of course, used Francis. And it's an interesting take there. But anyway. Peter Lejeune says the south side of Chicago is a Sox country. Southside Cubs fans are not interested. Birding, I don't care what Steve Bannon said. It's not about what Steve Bannon believes. I'm just telling you what I believe. Look, and again, folks, it's not even a personal thing about this guy. Look, I don't know the man before I'm Adam's house cat. It's the system. It's the system. I don't put a lot of stock in Steve Bannon. I don't put a lot of stock in what anybody out there says. I mean, but, you know, I think it's pretty funny, Peter. I'm pretty funny. Wesley said, does the priest teach the people the Bible? Wesley, they do just the opposite. They take the Bible out of the hands of the people. The history of the Catholic Church has been with this whole system thing. Look, the clergy, this hierarchy over the people, going back to almost 1,500 years, going back to the Dark Ages, this is how we have the Dark Ages. The Scripture, the Bible, this book, this precious book, was literally taken away from the people with this doctrine of the Nicolaitans, and this clergy, this hierarchy was telling the people, they were saying, we will tell you what's in this book. You don't read it for yourself. You don't need to listen to God yourself. You don't need to go to communion with God yourself. You don't need to pray to God. You don't even listen to God. We will tell you what God is saying. So did the priests teach the Bible? They teach their version of it. Catholics have their own Bible. And they put a lot of these uninspired works in their Bible, and they teach it as basically sacred divine revelation. It is not. It is not. And every single one of you out there that's listening to me tonight, you don't need a priest to tell you what's in this book. And you don't need to pray to a priest to get to God. If you've got a personal relationship with Jesus, you've got the door is open to you through the Holy Spirit, through your intercession and through your prayer and your personal relationship. You can go to the Father on your own. You don't need somebody to do that for you. And I'm talking to the Protestants as well. I'm talking to the Protestants as well. That's not just a Catholic thing. That's not just a Catholic thing. Anyway, any other questions here tonight? I'm going to wrap this up. It's been good to be with you. We got a lot more we didn't talk about. Jeannie, thank you for being with us. We try to keep things real here. We try to keep things real. Probably not going to look at the emails for a few days, but I'm sure. Dennis says, Illinois calling, help us, please. Did you get something out of the show tonight? Put some fire in that house. Peggy, where does the Vatican get the money to fund their way of life? It's good questions. It's a story to itself. A lot of this has come through decades and centuries of indulgences and backroom deals, and a lot of this Catholic Church has controlled nations. They have had their hands in governments, and they've had their hands in treasuries, and There's been bribes and money, and there's been a evil trail of money. It's probably a good documentary for somebody to do how the Catholic Church got so rich. I'm sure there's documentaries out there. But that comes from a lot of sources. But they have money. It's a rich conclave. It's a rich organization. All righty, I'm done. McFilesforum@gmail.com. Sound off. But I want to go back to Chris Davis's question. Chris, about Canada, it remains to be seen. They chose their leader, and I know there are some people out there that think this was stolen, and I disagree wholeheartedly. I think that they put up a man, Pierre Poilievre, that should have kept his mouth shut about Trump. He should have run a campaign and fought for the people of Canada instead of trashing America. Because America was not his enemy. Trump was not his enemy. Trump would have worked with Pierre Poilievre. And he would have sat down. Trump basically, I saw the tweet today. I looked at the tweet again. Trump basically, all he said the day or two before the election is he was not going to keep subsidizing Canada's ill-fated government that didn't know how to run a government and didn't know how to balance their budget and their billions of dollars in debt, thanks to Trudeau and other leaders. We're giving them $200 billion a year. And all Trump was basically saying was that, look, if we keep giving you this money, we're going to want accountability. And that's where this 51st state stuff is coming in. And, there's no, I don't know what it is about other nations that think that America's obligated to pay their bills to them without recourse. We're not. And I love the Canadian people. I love them. They chose this path. They chose this. Now, I don't care whether 69% voted or 52% voted or who didn't, he won that election. And if they want to keep wallowing in self-pity and saying, okay, it was stolen, then believe that. Instead of taking a good hard look at the party that they were supposed to have in. Pierre Poilievre had a 30-point lead in January over Trudeau. And about the same lead that he had over Carney. And he blew it. And he started blowing it when he started attacking Trump in America. Instead of running a campaign to fight for the people of Canada. And he didn't do it. So to the Canadians that blame us for that, you need to look in the mirror and blame yourself. And blame Canada. Because we didn't vote in your elections. And I say that with all due respect. As Salty Mary said, McDonald's on fire tonight. And I got to get out of here. I love you guys. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed. I'll see you back here in the morning. You Bible students, come and be with me. Because we're going to talk some good stuff in the morning. Some good stuff in the morning. Have a good one ever out there tonight. Good one. Be safe. Be back tomorrow, the Lord willing, in the morning. We'll see about tomorrow night, but we will be back in the morning. Good night. And K-Star Talk Radio, 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.